Assalamualaikum. We continue with tutorial question number 7. Given the following algorithm, identify the IPO. So what is algorithm? There are two types of algorithm that are pseudocode and flowchart. So you are going to learn about algorithm later in the next chapter. So now, this is a pseudocode. So from the pseudocode given, you have to identify what is the input, process and output. Input, process and output. Alright, now based on the pseudocode here, this is a selection control structure. So there are three types of control structure. That is sequence, selection and repetition. How could I know this one is a selection control structure? Because there is a condition in this pseudocode. So this is the condition. Means that if integer mode modulus 2 equal to 0, okay, if this condition is true, then it will display the number is even. Okay, the number is even. Okay, if this condition is false, then it will display this statement and it will display the number is odd. So that's why this is selection control structure. So how to write the IPO for selection control structure? Okay, now we get the output first. So now since this is selection control structure, so it will produce actually whether this statement or this statement, okay, based on this condition. So the output should be the number is even, or double quote. So you just write down this one, the number is odd. Right, actually if you can see the double quote here, the double quote here means that it is a message and it will display exactly whatever it is in the double quote. So it will display the number is even if this condition is true, and it will display this statement, the number is odd, if this statement is false. Okay, which statement is false? If this condition is false, then it will display this one, okay, else. So that's why this is a selection control structure, means that it depends on the user. If the user enter, for example, the integer mode 2 equal to 0, then it is true, then it will display the number is even. Okay, it have choices. Okay, next, how about the input? So the input is quite easy. If you can see, okay, in the pseudocode, if you have the word read input enter, and it should be input. So the input is integer. Okay, integer. And how about the process? How to write the process for selection control structure? So you start with determine. So what are you going to determine? So we are going to determine whether, okay, whether, so the number is even, or the number is odd based on your input that is integer. Okay, this one, the process, you just write in your sentence and it depends on the output. Okay, now for the output here, you have to write exactly whatever is in the display here, the display statement. You have to put double quote and you have to write in exactly whatever in the pseudocode, and you have to write or. You cannot use comma or and. Or means either one. Okay, if this condition is true, it will display this one. If this condition is false, then it will display this one. Right? Must be exactly. But for process, you just write whatever that is indicate for the output statement. Okay, next for question number 8. Given the following algorithm, so as I told you just now, there are two types of algorithm, that is pseudocode and flowchart. So now this one is a pseudocode. Alright, now based on the pseudocode given, so what is the control structure for the pseudocode here? So you have three type of control structure. That is sequence, you have selection, and you have repetition. Okay, if it is a selection, it must have a condition. You have more than one option. You have two choices. You have three choices. Okay, for sequence, okay, actually you don't have condition. You don't have how many times to repeat. Okay, for the sequence, you have done in question number 1 until number 6. Okay, now you have to identify the output first. Normally, we get the output first. So the output is from the word display. Right, display or the word output itself. Okay, so you just write exactly whatever is in the display and in the double quote. So you just write down, make sure you put double quote, the three numbers are the same, double quote, or. So you just write down exactly the, then you have dot, okay, double quote, okay, either one. So it depends on the condition here. So if this condition is true, it will display this one. If this condition is false, then it will display this one. Alright? Okay, now how about the input? Okay, so you can read, you can see the word read, input, enter. So this should be the input. So you just write down exactly num1, comma, num2, comma, and num3. Okay, this is the input. Okay, next, how about the process? Okay, to write the process for selection control structure, since you have more than one option, okay, you have more than one option, you have to start with determine. So determine what? Determine whether, where's your output? Num1, whether num1, num2, and num3 are the same or not, based on what? Based on your input is num1, num2, and num3. Okay, you can use here n for process, but for input you cannot use n. Okay, next we move to question number 9. So given the following algorithm, so same as with question number 7 and 8, you have to identify the input, process, and output. So now, first, what is the control structure for this question? Of course, the control structure here is selection. Why? Because you have condition here. So this is the condition. Okay, syarat. Means that if this condition is true, it will display this one, or else means that this condition is false, and it will display this one. Okay, so now what is the output? So now since this one is a message, if you can see the double quote, that one is the message. So it will print or display exactly whatever is in your double quote. Is Tasha, double quote, or the winner is Linda. So make sure you put double quote. You have to use or because either one. Okay. It will not display both, but it will display either one. Okay, based on the condition. How about the input? So the input is winner. And how about the process? So as I told you before, if it is a selection, you start with determine. What are you going to determine? Kita nak tentukan apa? Determine whether the winner is Tasha or Linda based on what? Based on winner. Alright, so this is the answer for question number 9. Okay, next we move to question number 10. By considering the following scenario, identify the input, process and output. So scenario 1, calculate and display the perimeter of a cuboid. Okay, actually, what is the control structure for scenario 1? Is it sequence, selection or repetition? Of course, this one is a sequence. Okay, because you only need to calculate. Do you have any condition? No condition. And how about repetition? You don't have to repeat for how many times. So that's why this is sequence. Okay, now input, process and output. What are you going to get? The output is perimeter. We are going to get perimeter of a cuboid. Okay, now what is the input? Okay, to calculate the perimeter of a cuboid, what do you need to enter? So, of course, the length, comma, width, and height. Alright, so this is the variable that you need to write. Okay, to calculate or to get the perimeter of a cuboid. And then how about the process? So what are you going to calculate? Calculate perimeter of a cuboid based on what? What is your input? So based on length, comma, width, and you can use n here, height. Okay. Okay, next. Scenario 2. Calculate and display Ahmad age. So you have to create a program to calculate Ahmad age. So what is the output? So you are going to get Ahmad age. Alright, now to calculate or to get the Ahmad age, what is the input that you need to enter? Of course, you need year born and also current year. Alright, current year. Okay, then only the process is calculate Ahmad's age based on what? Based on year born and current year. Means that let's say Ahmad was born in 2000. So you just enter 2000 and the current year is 2023. So once I press enter, then 2023 will minus with 2000. Then Ahmad age is 23. Okay, if you don't want to write the current year, is also okay. So your input is year born only. But in the process later, okay, in the formula during the pseudocode and flowchart, you have to put the current year, that is 2023, as a constant in the process, okay, during the pseudocode and also flowchart. Okay, next. For question number 11. Okay, Puan Rose is planning to prepare a healthy breakfast for her family. She needs to buy a few items and needs to calculate the total price, okay, based on what? Price and quantity of each item that she wants to buy. For item with the item code 5,000 and above, 6% of GST will be imposed, akan dikenakan. The calculation process is finished when she enters 0 for the value of item code. So you have to identify the IPO. Alright, now for this question, it is quite complicated if you read the question. Okay, now you have to identify what is the control structure first. So now, okay, based on this problem statement, this statement, the calculation process is finished when she enters 0 for the value of item code. This one is a repetition. So actually there are two types of repetition. You have sentinel control, and also you have another one is counter control. So now this one is called as sentinel. Means that when she enters 0, this program will stop. So this one is a sentinel control structure and this one is a repetition. Okay, next. What else do you have? Do you have a selection control structure? Yes. Okay. Which statement that indicate it is a selection control structure? This one. The item code, okay, 5,000 and above, this indicate it is a selection control structure. In this question, it is a repetition and selection. Of course, sequence must have. So, we have repetition, selection, and of course, sequence. Okay. In any problem statement, at least you must have sequence control structure. So, in this question, you have repetition, selection, and sequence. Okay, now, what is the output? Okay, the output is we are going to calculate the total price. This one is quite easy. Okay, now, what is the input? So, the input here, the question mentioned that, based on price and quantity. Of course, the input is price, quantity. Okay, you have another one input. So what is another input? Is item code. Of course, you need to enter item code. Okay, item code. Item code that is 5,000 and above will be imposed with 6% GST. Okay, now, how to construct how to write the process. Okay, so we start with determine, because this one is a selection control structure, selection and repetition. Okay, now determine whether the item code, okay, item code is 5,000 and above. Then what do you have to do? Then calculate total price with 6% GST repeatedly. Okay, repeatedly until code item is 0. Okay, this one is indicate this is a selection, and the word repeatedly until code item is 0, this one is a repetition. Means that what are you going to determine? So kita nak determine whether the item code is 5,000. If the item code is 5,000 and above, Then calculate the total price with 6% GST. Okay, repeatedly dia akan ulang until the quote item is 0. So as long as if your item code is not 0, then this program will repeatedly continue. Okay, repeatedly run. Once you press 0, then only this program will stop execute, right? Okay, next question number 12. For question number 12, with the escalating price of fuel, the need to understand the car fuel consumption has become increasingly important. In April 2017, you have made 10 journeys. You want to know the average fuel consumption for month of April 2017. Assume that your car can read the mileage in kilometer and also the fuel tank level in liter at the beginning and at the end of journey. So you have to identify what? You have to identify the IPO. First, what is the control structure for this question? So the control structure for this question is repetition. Why repetition? Because you can see here you have made 10 journeys, then you are going to get the average fuel consumption. Okay, average fuel consumption for how many journeys? 10 journeys. So this program will repeat for 10 times, and at the end this program will get the average. Okay, of course in this problem statement you must have sequence. Okay, at least sequence mesti ada. So you have sequence and also repetition control structure. Okay, now what is the output? So we are going to get the average. So average fuel consumption. Okay, now to get the average of fuel consumption, what is the input need? So of course, okay, the question said here, assume that you can read the mileage. So what mileage is that? To get the mileage, start mileage, and of course end mileage. Then only you can get the total mileage. Okay, end mileage minus with the start mileage, you get the total mileage. Okay, then what else do you need? So of course start fuel and end fuel. Make sure you separate with comma. Okay, comma. Okay, next, how about the process? So since this one is a repetition control structure and this one is not selection, so you don't have to write determine. So what are you going to calculate? So you calculate average fuel consumption based on what? So based on start mileage, end mileage, right? Start fuel and end fuel. Okay, now here you have to add for 10 journeys. So if you write this one for 10 journeys, it indicates that this one is a repetition control structure. Okay, next. We move to question number 13. Mr. Rahman plans to make a reservation for a hotel room in Langkawi Island. The basic rate is 250 per night and service charge is 15% of the room rate. Okay, determine the total payment if he books the hotel for n nights. Okay, list the IPO to calculate the total payment of the output. Okay, now as usual, So what is the control structure? What is the control structure for this question? So you just read back. The basic rate is 250 per night and service charge is 15% of the room rate. Determine the total payment if he books the hotel room for n night. Okay, this one is only a sequence control structure. Okay, sequence control structure. Do you have condition in this question? No, you don't have condition. Do you have a repetition? Is this a repetition? No. Okay, because the question did not mention for how many times. Okay. Okay, next. What is the output? Total payment. Okay, total payment. Okay, next. What is the input? So the input here, okay, is 250 is the input. No, this one is a constant. Okay, but here you have here is per night. Means that Mr. Rahman can book this hotel for more than one night. Okay, so that's why the input is number of night. Right? Or you can write as n night is also can. Okay, means that Mr. Rahman can book more than one night. Okay. Okay, next. How about the process? So, calculate. What is your output? Total payment based on what? Based on number of nights with what? With 15% service charge. Okay, now you need to remember that this one, okay, if you see the constant here, that is 250. So you don't have to write in your input. Okay, this one, you need to write in the process during pseudocode and also flowchart. Okay, this 250. In IPO, you don't have to write the formula. Okay, so the constant you don't have to write in the input. Okay, next. Question number 14. Okay, this one is quite easy. So if you see here, identify all inputs for each of the processes below. So now, the formula is given to you. Okay, if the formula is given to you, it's quite easy to identify the input, process, and output. So, input, process, and output. Okay, now what is the output? Normally, the output is this one. So, the output is area of circle. So, how about the input? So, the input is R. Is the input is pi? No. Why? Because pi is constant. 3.142 constant. So you don't have to put in the input. So you have to write the constant later in the pseudocode and flowchart. You have to write in the process, okay, in the formula. Okay, in the input you don't have to write the constant. Okay, next. How about the process? Calculate area of circle based on what? Based on R. Okay, that's all. Okay, next. How about the second formula? So, what is the input, process, and output? Of course, the output is Celsius. Okay, next. How about the input? Okay, this one is 32 is constant, 5 divided by 9 is constant also. So, the input is Fahrenheit. Okay, Fahrenheit. So, what is the process? Calculate Celsius based on what? Based on Fahrenheit. Alright, next. Okay, the last formula for question 14. So what is the output? Okay, output is area of triangle. Okay, area of triangle. So this is your output. This is what we are going to get. So now, how about the input? So is 1.5 is the input? No, this one is a constant, so you don't have to write in the input. So your input is what? This one is the variable. So the value that is changed. Okay, so the input is height, comma, base. So what is your process? So you are going to calculate area of triangle based on what? So based on height and base, right? Okay, next we move to question number 15. A contractor needs a program that calculates and displays the volume of rectangular swimming pool. Okay, so rectangular swimming pool. So you have to identify the IPO. Okay, first of all, what is the control structure for this question? Of course, this one is a sequence control structure. Is it selection control structure? No, because in this problem statement, we don't see any condition. And is it repetition? No. Okay, because the question did not mention how many times you need to repeat. Right? Okay, now, what are you going to display? So, of course, volume of rectangular. If you want to write in full sentence, volume of rectangular swimming pool, it's up to you. Okay, now, to calculate, okay, and display the volume of rectangular swimming pool, what do you need to enter? Of course, its length, comma, and width, right? Then only the process is calculate volume of rectangular based on what? Based on length and width, right? This one is a sequence control structure. Okay, next we move to question number 16. So for question number 16, okay, a program will calculate the volume of cuboid. So you have to create a simple program to calculate the volume of cuboid, and the formula is given. Okay, if the formula is given, for me it is very easy to identify the IPO. So what is your output? Of course, volume of cuboid. So this is what we are going to get. Okay. Okay, now what is the input? Of course, on the right of the formula. So the input is length, comma, width, comma, height. Alright, so this is the input. And how about the process? So calculate volume of cuboid based on what? Based on length, width, and height. You can write in the process N, but in input you cannot write N. Okay, next for question number 17, also very easy. So the question is given with the formula for you. So now, what are you going to get? So of course, the output is density. Okay, on your right of the formula. So what is the input? Of course, mass, comma, volume. Okay, and then how about the process? So calculate density based on what? Based on mass, and you can write N here, in the process, and volume. Okay, now this one is a sequence control structure. Okay, because you don't have any condition or how many times do the program need to repeat. Okay, last question for question number 18. Based on the following algorithm, identify the IPO. So now this one is a pseudocode. Okay, there are two types of algorithm that are pseudocode and flowchart. So now, from the pseudocode given, we know that this one is a selection control structure. Why? Because you can see the condition here. Okay, condition here. So now, if this condition is true, it will display this one. If this condition is false, then it will display this one. Okay. Okay, now, what is the output? So the output is, of course, this one. Alright, double quote. It is room temperature, double quote, or you are not in your room. So this is the output. You have to use or because either one. Okay, the program will display either one, whether it is room temperature or you are not in your room. So how about the input? Okay, you can see the word here is read. Read enter input is the input. So the input is 10. Okay, now how to write the process? So this one is selection. So you start with determine. So determine means tentukan. Determine what? Determine whether the temperature determine whether it is a room temperature or not based on your input is 10. Okay, actually if you want to write based on the condition is also okay, it's better lah. So let's say if you want to write determine whether it is a room temperature or not based on temperature, there is range 20 to 30 is okay. Okay, next. I just want to go back to question number 14. So for question 14.1, okay, 14I, so the input is only R. Okay, the R is only 1 because, okay, you cannot write even though you can see R to the power of 2. So you don't have to write this way. Okay, this way. So your input is only R because if you want to get the area of circle, so how many times do you need to enter the R radius? Only once, isn't it? So for example, if you want to calculate the area of circle, you only enter the radius is, for example, the radius is 10. So when I press radius is 10, okay, then I press enter, then I will get the area of circle. Do I need to enter the radius 10 twice? No. So that's why your input is R, right? Okay, that's all.